Golic and Smetty here. Oh no, there's a place for cheese and it's not dessert. Welcome to another episode of Golic and Smetty. I am Mike Golic Sr. She is Jessica Smetana. And we are coming at you and still in the NBA Finals because, as we said, it lasts for a year and a half. We have, as the taping of this is going on, we have just finished Game 5, which means only about another month to go. As Golden State actually wins back-to-back games, they win by 10 on Monday night to take a 3-2 lead on Boston as the series goes back to Boston for Game 6. If nothing else, Jess, I'm just hoping we get 7 games, because right now you have a 12-point win, a 12 and 19-point win, 16-point win, 10-point win, and 10-point win. So, I'm waiting for this last second shot win or something to come down at the end. We haven't gotten that yet, but if we get 7 games, hopefully we will. But kudos to Golden State at home when neither team could hit a 3 except Boston started hitting them in the second half after, I think, starting out 0 for 12. But Steph Curry and Golden State, I think they were 9 of 40. It was horrific. Steph not being the offensive firepower he was. Kudos to Andrew Wiggins, and Jeff Van Gundy said it on the broadcast. He said, Wiggins has got to be aggressive. I mean, as soon as he said that, almost the words were out of his mouth, Wiggins drove the lane and got an and one. And he was the leading scorer for Golden State. So he stepped up, helped Golden State get the win on their home court to take that lead going back to Boston. But I got to figure Golden State, without Steph Curry playing well like he did in Game 5 when he had 43 points, now he's going to be ticked off he missed so many threes, going back and maybe being able to close it out on Boston's home floor.
Yeah, like you said, 9 for 40 from deep, which is just so bad. Mike, I know you were joking about there being a month until the next game. The next game's Thursday night, Game 6, and then Game 7 would be Sunday. But do you think there's any way that these long breaks between games is causing the players to get a little cold? They're not in a game rhythm. They're taking more days off in between games. Is there anything to that? Because there was some bad shooting, bad turnovers. It just looked like both teams were not in the zone at the start of the game.
I think it's a fair question to ask. It's a sport they're used to playing a lot sooner than that, right? But it's also, athletes can use anything they want. If they have a long layoff, people say, oh, you're rusty. They say, oh, no, we got people healthy. Or you don't have a long layoff, even though we have people hurt. Oh, we can stay in our group. They can make it fit whatever they want.
It's the old rust versus rest argument.
Exactly.
You get that a lot in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yes.
It's like the team that sweeps the team versus the team that goes to 7. Are you in a better rhythm if you make it to 7 games, or are you just exhausted when you get to the next Game 1?
Exactly right. And by the way, looking forward to that Tampa Bay and Colorado. Tampa Bay, it's stunning, can win 3 in a row. I mean, it's just stunning.
They're so good. I hate it.
You're not a big fan of that, huh?
I mean, look, I grew up a Blackhawks fan. The Blackhawks won 3 Stanley Cups when I was in high school through college.
Right.
So I was on the other side of that. Everyone hated the Blackhawks because they just kept winning and they had that solid core on their team. So I get it. But then that gives me the right to hate the next dynasty that comes along. And the Blackhawks actually beat the Lightning with Steven Stamkos in 2015 in the Stanley Cup playoff finals. So that almost became another Lightning championship. This team has been good for a very, very long time. Does not look like they're close to giving that up yet.
Incredible. And to me, there's nothing like overtime and playoff hockey. So we've been getting some good games in the playoffs there. Some obviously not so, but some good. So again, for the NBA, I'm hoping actually Boston wins this to go 7. I don't have a horse in this race at all.
Neither do I. Yeah. I want to watch good basketball.
Yes.
And also I want to watch good basketball before my bedtime because, Mike, if I'm being honest, I have not stayed awake for the end of any of these games. I've woken up the next morning. I mean, the life of an early radio show producer, talent, whatever. You can't stay up till midnight watching these games and then get up the next morning at 5 a.m. It's just not going to happen.
So Mike now, my son, doing his show Gojo for DraftKings, he does a show every day, and that's what he has to do. He has to stay up till after the game for him and Brandon, who is his producer and goes on air with him as well, Brandon Newman. They have to wait till after. So it's late. I mean, I'm with you. 9 o'clock starts. Hated it. Absolutely hated it when I was doing the show. Crazy. But hopefully we'll get, a good game. We'll see. Hopefully it goes game 7 and we'll be back in Golden State, and maybe we'll get a close one. We'll have to wait and see on that. One thing I definitely wanted to touch on with you, congrats on the F1 pod you're going to be doing.
Thank you.
Very cool. As again, I've been getting into the F1 this year, and the race last week, tough for Ferrari. I heard your minute on, well, I watched it too, but I like listening to your minute with Dan and Stu. But tough road for Ferrari in this one. Verstappen doing Verstappen things. That's what he does. But you had Lando Norris on. So again, I've gotten to know a lot of these guys with Drive to Survive. So I start to recognize them more, the drivers and the chairmans and stuff like that. So it definitely adds a little bit more when I actually see these guys at live races.
Yeah, well, we had Lando Norris on the Levitard show last Friday, and he was awesome. It was, Mike, you know what it's like sometimes getting guests on Zoom where they'll bring in like a PR person that's gonna make sure everything's set up, and then like the person you're interviewing comes in the Zoom afterwards and joins, and everyone's like, oh, there they are. So like Lando had like several PR people. There was a Formula One person there. There was a McLaren person there. And then there was this other PR person there. Like we were joking in the producer's room. We were like, I think Mike Ryan actually walked in and said, I think Joe Biden had fewer people with him last night on Kimmel because there was like a whole, group of people setting up this interview for him. And then he shows up and I almost screamed because I was so excited. We've been trying to get a Formula One driver on the show for like months. So they are hard to track down. They're also always in weird, different time zones, way off of Eastern time. So it was very, very exciting. I actually had to even wake up even earlier than usual to go in for that. That's how important it was.
There you go.
And I hate setting my alarm back earlier than it has to be. So it was very exciting having him on. And yeah, he ended up, I think, finishing P9 in the race this weekend. So he had a decent race, but him and his teammate were kind of battling it out, trying to pass each other the whole time with him and Daniel Ricciardo. So yeah, it was great having him on. Hopefully we can get Daniel Ricciardo next, or anyone really. I'll take any Formula One
Ricciardo,
driver. They're all pretty interesting.
Ricciardo is such a personality too. I mean, that dude has not passed a mirror he hasn't looked in for sure. But he's got a great personality as well. The one thing, not Ricciardo, but when you had Lando on, some of these other guys, they look like they're 10. I mean,
yeah, Lando was 19, I believe, when he started driving in Formula One, which is crazy. Yeah. But there's actually, Mike, there's pictures of him from his karting career, I think with Max Verstappen, and they both are, Verstappen is, I think, only 23 or 24 right now. They both look like such babies. It is so funny just to see these pictures, and they're driving these tiny carts around these tracks. But yeah, he is definitely, I think, one of the youngest, if not like second or third youngest guys on the grid right now, which is, why I wanted to talk to him, because, I'm young too.
You're young too, and I'm old. I get it, Jess. I'm old. You're young. We can keep stamping that.
He's also, Mike, he's big into the Formula One gaming, and I don't know if you're a video game person or not, but the Formula One video game is so hard to play. And they're actually coming out with a new Formula One game right now called F1 Manager, where you can like manage a team and decide on like, instead of like just driving the car, you're like, when should we pit? What kind of upgrades do we need to make to our car? So it's like way more technical. I think it sounds kind of cool. It sounds like something that if I played when I was like, 8 or 9 years old, I'd be like, wow, I want to be an engineer, instead of like, wow, I want to host a sports podcast. It was pretty cool. I'm excited. I want to play it.
Well, listen, video games today are a little different.
Amazing.
Than when I was growing up and it was Pong, just a little bit different. All you kids out there, look up Pong and you'll know what I'm talking about. But it was cool. You had him on. He's sitting, I think, he's sitting 7th in the overall driver standings right now. Verstappen and Checo are 1-2 here. Russell, has a chance to catch Leclerc, maybe. I don't know. Leclerc's third on the podium.
Depending on what happens with the Ferrari the rest of the season. But George Russell has been Mr. Consistency this season. He has not finished below P5. Yeah. And I don't know, Mike, one question for you. I don't know if you watched the whole race, but Lewis Hamilton was just like bouncing up and down the whole time, porpoising in his car, and he was complaining about his back hurting.
You think?
At one point, he said that his seat had gone cold, and there was speculation that maybe like his ass just went numb.
Yeah.
From
Listen,
his back bouncing around.
I saw you tweet about that, and I answered. I said, that seems to be the word of the day as we're hearing is porpoise.
Ass. Oh, porpoise.
Porpoise.
Right.
Oh, ass. Well, ass could be too. But porpoise, these cars on the straightaway just bouncing up and down at that speed, it's got to be brutal. Yeah, it's got to take a little bit of an effect, but it's kind of seems to have been that way with Hamilton in that car for the year. It'll be interesting what happens next year with him and the type of car they can get him in. But you know what? I don't know. How many more races are left?
I want to say like 15 or 16. I can't know. I don't remember off the top of my head. But I think there's 22 total. Okay. Yeah. Gotcha. There's usually like a 3-week break in August, and then they come back and do some of the races in North America. There's a race in Japan this year. And then the end of the season is, I think, November 20th in Abu Dhabi. But yeah, Mike, the back stuff is concerning because backs are something that you don't think about at all in your, teens and 20s and maybe even in your 30s. And then like I heard that one day you just wake up and suddenly you realize you have a back. And then like the rest of your life is just managing your back and how your back feels. Is that accurate?
You are so young, Jess. You are just so young. You have so many great things to look forward to. Bad back being one of them. Yes, that's what happens. What we fail to do as we get older, we fail to stretch as much as we need. Our metabolism slows down. The body changes a little bit. You don't stretch like you need, and before you know it, you're waking up going, "Oh shit, my back hurts." And you spend the first hour getting up trying to make sure you can walk straight. So good luck with that down the road.
Thank you.
Not
looking forward to it.
No, it's not something to look forward to, but we will look forward to your podcast, your F1 podcast. That's very cool. And hopefully more drivers you get on there and the rest of the season. So one other thing we had out there that just started was, you don't see a ton of it. You don't see a ton of controversy in golf, the gentleman's game. But here we did with the Live Golf backed by the Saudi Arabia had their first tournament in London where I think there's 48 golfers and last place gets you $120,000 and first place was Schwartzel. I think he got $4 million. So we know a lot of it's the money. We've talked about this already of why guys have gone, given their reasons, but we know it's really about the money. But I thought what was interesting is Rory McIlroy, who, by the way, is just a crowd favorite everywhere. He just seems like such a likable guy, wins a Canadian Open for the second year in a row. And by the way, I don't know if you watched any of it, but at the Waste Management in Phoenix, where the 16th hole has all the crazies,
oh, yeah.
That Canadian Open, they get going, man. There was a lot of young people there. It was packed. People were slamming beers. I mean, it looked like it was a hell of a lot of fun. And we know that Canadian beer can be a little more potent than the American.
I've never heard that before. Is that true?
Oh yeah, it definitely is. When my father played in the Canadian Football League, this is in the 50s, at halftime, they had beer in the locker room. At halftime, they would drink beer. But yes, Canadian beers. Now, there are others. American beer has been made a little stronger as well. But yes, Canadian beer can be pretty potent.
I had no idea about this.
They were having a ball. It was a younger crowd. They were having a ball. Rory gets a win back-to-back there. But it was his comments afterward when he was being interviewed. One of the first things he said was it was my 21st PGA victory, one more than some other guy. And the other guy he was talking about was Greg Norman, who was heading up the Live tournaments for again, backed by Saudi Arabia. He has 20 PGA Tour wins. And this was Rory's 21st. And he made sure to make note that he had one more win than Greg Norman. And he also talked about the golfers taking the easy way out who are involved in the live tournaments as well. So there seems to be a little bit of bad blood going back and forth. I have a feeling this is all going to die down at some point. We're right in the beginning of it. I mean, listen, we went through the whole thing where the NBA and they're dealing with China and when China's, human rights and what they went through and such, and everybody made a big thing of it. Now, nobody really says anything about it. You just have a feeling that this is kind of going to go the same way. There's going to be this uproar in the beginning, and then it's maybe going to go away. We'll see, though. We're only in the first week of it, and Rory already kind of chirping a bit.
Yeah, it's an interesting comparison because I think there's a few differences. Like this new golf league is actually backed by the government, like you said, whereas like NBA's business dealings in China are not. It's not really like the same structure.
Right, right.
But I do think like one thing that you said is true, which is that people who consume stories about it tend to get like fatigue about all of these problems, and none of the problems that seem like they're things that people like you and me can even solve. So I do think that like the novelty of this new, league might the stories might kind of stop being told, and people might stop consuming them. Another example of this is we're talking about Formula One. Formula One raced last weekend in Azerbaijan, and Azerbaijan is another country where they've been accused of sports washing too. They've hosted soccer matches, Formula One events, other sporting events. And there was a lot of publicity about it initially, and then slowly people stopped talking about it. And it seems like now there's not really a lot of coverage about that when, like the Formula One race comes around. But I do wonder, like, what the actual product is, if the actual product is sustainable enough for people to remain interested in it with those stories gone. I didn't watch any of the tournament. I was not interested in watching it, and it was not even on TV. It was, I think, streaming on YouTube this weekend, and I don't really know what kind of viewership it got. I don't know if it's a worthwhile product to consume. I know that it's kind of set up differently than the PGA Tour events that I'm used to watching. But I think moving forward, that's going to be what determines whether or not this does kind of die down and people just stop paying attention to it. It's still going to happen whether or not people pay attention to it, because there's tons of money going into this thing for the next, I can't remember how many years they're invested in it. But yeah, like you said, next weekend, or I guess this weekend, is the US Open. So I think a lot of golf fans will be watching that. And the PGA suspended all of the players who are playing in the LIV tournament from PGA events. That doesn't include the US Open, because the US Open is a major, and it's an open invitational.
Yeah, it's USGA. Actually, none.
Right,
actually,
the USGA.
Actually, none of the majors are through the PGA. So,
right.
And at this point, it looks like the majors are going to let these players be involved. But I agree with you. It's like, because right now it is streaming. I didn't even try and look for it. Not going to lie, because A, I wasn't that interested, and B, I have a hard time going through the streaming world. I need like your help or Sydney's help to do that. But at some point, we're going to find out what the numbers were, how many people watched. Is there going to be interest, or is it going to fade away? Or are more golfers, name golfers, forgetting guys we don't know, name golfers, going to get involved in this and split from the PGA, knowing they're going to be suspended? That to me is going to be the interesting thing. So while week one is in the books, and Rory kind of kept it alive with chirping a little bit, which I think a lot of people
and Rory winning too, like, a golfer that people know and recognize, and who a lot of people really like, probably one of the most popular golfers, winning this event probably helped the PGA Tour a lot this weekend. But yeah, I think his comments are interesting, because I think he's very clearly planted his flag alongside the PGA Tour. I think if you want to, read more about this, I think Kevin Van Valkenburg's, he did a ESPN Daily episode about it, and also wrote a story about it, and talked to some human rights activists, and wrote a really in-depth story with some reporting. He was in London for the event. So I recommend that for people to read if they want to learn more about the event last weekend, the one that Mike and I both said we did not watch. But yeah, the US Open will be interesting, because it seems like a lot of people will be paying attention, if for anything else, just to see how the interpersonal dynamics play out now that all of this has been put out on the table. Next up on Golic and Smetty, we are going to talk to Trey Mancini from the Baltimore Orioles about Notre Dame's impressive win this weekend over Tennessee, and their trip to the College World Series for the first time since 2002. So Trey will be joining us to talk about that. Trey, have you ever thought about what it would be like to start a podcast with your dad, or like your friend's dad? Because that's been the last 3 months of my life.
I haven't, but it actually would be fun. Yeah, some of my friends' dads are, pretty funny. They'd be pretty good on podcasts, but it's nothing I consider. But yeah, I'm sure you all have a great thing going here.
The only problem, Trey, is like my daughter, because she was the years of my daughter, 16 at Notre Dame, and I was 85. So there's obviously a generation gap. I think, and she's very nice about it, but I think she like holds her breath every time I start to talk.
100%.
Thinking
Yeah.
I'm going to say something dumb or something she's going to have to correct, like she's sitting there with her old man as well. I feel I put that fear in you, Jess, all the time. Do I?
Sort of, but it's your reputation, not mine, that's at stake. So, whatever you say is whatever you want to say. But Trey, thank you for joining. Trey Mancini is on the Baltimore Orioles. He was a Notre Dame baseball player, which is why we are having him on this week of all weeks, because Notre Dame, for the first time in 20 years, has advanced to the College Baseball World Series in Omaha. So Trey, my first question, were you watching all the games this weekend against Tennessee? Where were you watching them? And what was your excitement level for this Notre Dame Tennessee series?
Yeah, so we were in Kansas City this weekend, and our game times matched up pretty well with Notre Dame's. So, like our game started like an hour or two after theirs the whole weekend, so I got to see at least the beginning of the game. So during our games, I kind of would secretly like check and see what the score of the Notre Dame Tennessee game was. But I knew that they had a tall task ahead of them. Tennessee was an absurdly good team this year. There's no way around it. One of the best college baseball teams of all time. So they had their work cut out for them. The NCAA gave them a very tough draw, but that didn't matter to them at all. I'm, so proud of them, and it's an incredible accomplishment. When I was at Notre Dame, we just wanted to make it to a regional, and that would have been an amazing year. And now the fact that they're going to Omaha, it's hard to wrap your head around how quickly Ling Jarrett turned this program around.
And there was definitely a sense from the Notre Dame players and fans that this team had been disrespected in the seating, right? Is that something that
Yes.
you kind of felt talking to some of your former teammates?
Definitely. Last year, they were disrespected as well. They didn't get a top 8 national seed, and they should have, and they had to go to Mississippi State, who ended up winning the national championship for a super regional. So that was a really tough draw. This year, they got a really tough draw not hosting, having to travel. They definitely deserved a top 16 seed, but at the same time, I think they were used to being a little disrespected, and they kind of took that chip on their shoulder and played like it. It's been absolutely incredible to watch them all year.
I had to, I would call football games at Mississippi State, and heard the cowbells, and we always made, the cowbells. When they played there, the baseball team last year, I got sick of the cowbells. I'll tell you that much.
Gosh.
But what a great, in all honesty, though, it is a great place where they have a game, Mississippi State. I mean, it's a hell of a venue, just like in Knoxville as well. And the difference of my sport and your sport, ours is one game at a time. Yours goes in series. So after the first win, they hang on for a couple run win, then get basically bludgeoned in the second game. What's the thought process there? It's different in football. You get bludgeoned in football and go play the same team again. You're like, oh shit, we're in trouble. But in baseball, the old adage, is it true? You're only as good as your next starting pitcher.
Absolutely. Like baseball is crazy where you can get absolutely blasted one day, and then you come back the next day and the slate is wiped completely clean. And it's just a really funny game. And we've done it with the Orioles a lot this year. We've had some games where we got beat pretty bad, and we come back the next day and win, and you have to be able to wash it and come back and act like the day before never happened, good or bad. One day doesn't necessarily lead into the next. And Notre Dame showed us that with their Game 3 performance.
So I'm wondering how you would have done the one dude for Tennessee that I think he topped out at 103.
Yeah.
I mean, so let alone in Major League Baseball, where you're in right now, hitting something like that. Go back to college years and have someone. Was anybody rifling it that fast when you were at Notre Dame?
Oh, no. There was one guy at Pitt, actually. I remember their closer. His name's Ray Black. He played in the majors a little bit. I actually faced him in the majors. But I think he hit 102 against us one time. But I had never seen anything close to that. And the starting pitchers that Tennessee trotted out all weekend, we saw absolutely nothing like that when I was in college. Those guys are all first-round picks. So that makes it even more impressive that Notre Dame put up the performance they did, because these kids Tennessee was throwing out there every game. They were all incredible pitchers, and they're going to have great pro careers.
So you said that when you were playing at Notre Dame, you were lucky. You felt like you were lucky if you even got in a regional. And now this team is making it to the World Series. What do you think has changed in the only, 6 or 7 years since you graduated in this program?
Yeah, I just think it's the belief that they can compete with anybody in the country. Notre Dame's obviously a hard school to recruit guys to go play baseball. I'm from Florida, and when I was in high school, I wanted to play for a Florida school. I really wanted to play for Florida State, Florida, Miami. Didn't get recruited or offered by any of them, and then Notre Dame came calling my senior year, and then I obviously fell in love with Notre Dame the second I stepped on campus. But it's hard to get guys, especially from the South, to go up and play in South Bend, because it's, as we all know, it is brutally cold up there in the winter. We have to play the first month of the season away from campus. And, a lot of guys, especially guys from the South, are tempted to maybe stay home and play in a warmer weather school. So the fact that Link has been able to get all these, guys with elite talent to go up to Notre Dame to play baseball is really incredible. So a lot of it's talent level, and then the culture just seems absolutely incredible too. The way that these guys all play together, it's been just so fun to watch, and there's just a belief that they can win it all.
Do you think I'm always looking for like the angle where I can take credit for someone else's success? So do you think you can take any credit by being, a major leaguer from Notre Dame and Notre Dame having a few major league players in the league right now? Like, can you guys take credit for this, for being like, being successful, and then all these high school recruits being like, well, Trey Mancini went to Notre Dame, he ended up in the major league, so I could do that. I could go that route.
I wish I could, but I feel like a lot of schools can say that. A lot of schools probably have more guys in the majors than we do. I did talk to the team on Zoom last year before their season, so I'd like to take maybe a little bit of credit, but yeah, not too much. And then the only other thing I could take credit for was having Coach Restano, the pitching coach, threw to me in the home run derby last year too. So yeah, I don't know if that pumped the guys up at all, but no, it has nothing to do with us. It's all those guys on that team now. They have just done such an incredible job, and they've made all of us very proud to be Notre Dame baseball alumni, which I feel like hasn't always been the case.
And along those lines, when you talk about the next group, a lot of it is, who's running the show. Certainly, again, in my sport, in football, it's that way. Brian Kelly leaves and Marcus Freeman comes in. He's a great recruiter, though, and they're getting some great recruits. So with Link, the coach now at Notre Dame, been there a couple of years, but he has those ties, we know, at Florida State. Is there that fear that, and you can understand, listen, if that's someone's dream job, I have no idea if it is or not. But is there that fear, like, boy, they got things going well now, it'd be a shame for that to end?
Yeah, there definitely is. And yeah, I have no idea what he's thinking, but he played at Florida State. It could be his dream job, and you never know that. And you can't fault somebody if that is their dream job. But yeah, you would hope Notre Dame would do everything possible to keep him with what he's been able to do with that program in such a short amount of time. But yeah, that is kind of, I feel like, the elephant in the room right now a little bit too.
Yeah, you'd hate to see him go to Florida State and then start giving interviews about how great the cafeteria is.
Yeah. Yeah. Or start getting an accent like Brian Kelly.
Yeah. To go be by his family.
Yes. Yeah. The family.
I guess try and get in the heads of these players for the College World Series. Again, third time Notre Dame's been there, 20 years since they've been there last, of just the thought process of going into the College World Series, a new experience for these guys.
Yeah. I mean, it's one thing where you enjoy winning your super regional and yeah, you bask in it for a few days, but then at the same time you turn the page and you've got more work to do, and they've got a chance to win a national championship, which is crazy to say out loud, but they really do. And it's a wide open field. Any of these 8 teams can win this. So you obviously want to enjoy it, soak in the experience, but at the same time, when it gets close to game time, there's a lot of work to do.
I gotta ask again, because I've been doing the football baseball thing. Were you at did you go to the title game when my boys were on a team and we got smoked by Bama?
Yeah, it was my junior year.
Yeah.
That season, national title game aside, that season was still one of the best memories I've ever had that entire season. The Stanford goal line stand.
Yeah.
We had some close games. I remember we had like a triple overtime victory against Pitt.
Yep.
The first game against Purdue was a grind to win, but that team found a way to win. And it's just something that I'm always going to remember, like to be at Notre Dame that season when they make the national championship game. It was so cool. And that team made the school very proud that year, even though, Alabama, I mean, that was an NFL team they played. I remember when they ran out of the tunnel, I was just like, holy shit, those guys are massive.
Yeah. I remember the time in between the last game, the USC game, and the title game was 44 days where we were number one in the country. And it took all of 4 minutes for us to realize we weren't going to be number one in the country after that game. Yeah. And I knew as a parent of 2 players on the team that I was contractually obligated to sit there the entire friggin' game and watch that mess.
I wanted to maybe step out at halftime, but you got to. I remember the first play of the game too. We stuffed Eddie Lacy for like a 3-yard loss, and I'm like, all right, let's go. And then I think they had a play action pass for about 30 yards the next play. And I was like, okay, here we go.
Yeah, the reliving of it. It took my son, I think, 2 years to watch that game again and not lose his freaking mind.
Yeah, it's hard to do when you're a player and kind of watch a game like that.
This is why, as Notre Dame fans, though, we all have to be really obnoxious when there is a successful team to brag about.
We have to.
Whether it's baseball, women's basketball, soccer, it doesn't matter. Like
the fencing team makes us proud every year.
Yes, every year.
Exactly. Light up the number 1 on Grace Hall for the fencing team.
All right, so Trey, let's jump into this year where you are. Listen, from your career and then dealing obviously with cancer the way you did and coming back from that. I mean, I know you've talked about it time and time again, but just that trip to where you are right now.
Yeah, it's been an absolute whirlwind, and it definitely took me a while to get to this point and like how I've been feeling this year. 2019, I had a career year and was really on top of the world. And then a year after that, I was diagnosed with cancer in spring training and had to undergo 6 months of chemotherapy, missed the whole year. And I came back last year very quickly for what I went through. I didn't have a ton of time to prepare from the end of chemo till the season, almost more so mentally than physically. Physically, I did get tired, but I kind of use baseball as an outlet, I would say, to stick it to cancer and act like nothing happened. And I wanted to prove that I was the same player that I was in 2019. But that wasn't fair to myself. And me using baseball as an outlet kind of turned me into a head case at times, I think. It was just a huge roller coaster of a year for me, and rightfully so. But I definitely took this past off season to get my head back on straight, accept everything that happened to me, and really try to move forward. And time helps with that too. I'm over 2 years now, since I was diagnosed in my surgery and everything like that. So I definitely am in a much better mental mindset, but I knew this off season I needed to kind of put that all in the past and move forward and not treat every baseball game like it's a life or death situation, because I had actually been in a life and death situation. And, I would be remiss to not get perspective from that. And I think I've done a pretty good job this year of staying a little more even keel and consistent. So that's something that I'm proud of that I've been doing this year much better.
So you were called up to the Orioles in 2016 and had several years with the team before the cancer diagnosis and then before coming back. So now you've been in the majors for a while and your team is pretty young. How have you kind of found yourself in maybe a changing role with the team? Do you feel like you have more kind of experience and perspective than some of the younger players? And does that change at all the way that you interact with some of the younger players?
Yeah, definitely. So I was actually kind of thrown into that role even like 3 years ago, even though I was still kind of a younger guy compared to the league average age. But now I'm 30. So with a 3 in front of your age, you're legit. You're a legit vet at that point. So I've definitely bought into that role. I try to help all these guys because we've had a lot of guys make their debut this year. So I want to make them feel comfortable and because it can be intimidating when you get promoted to the majors. You're playing in front of 40-something thousand people. But it's really exciting to see a lot of these guys come up, make their debuts, and they're all doing a great job too. So, I'm happy to help them in whatever way I can. Even, the retirement plan that the MLB has, a lot of guys will ask me what they should do, 401k and stuff. I'm pretty well versed in all that. So I try to help them out in every facet of the game.
Yeah. Just so you know, in 6 months, I'll have a 6 in front of my name.
Oh,
yeah.
That's a great milestone.
Yeah. Whatever.
And I would not trust you with 401k advice either.
Yeah. Actually, I've got a lot of experience at 401k, a lot building up for sure. So along those lines, Trey, how has the game changed? As you say, you have a 3 in front of your age right now. You guys just went through, the work thing you went through. I've been through one of those as well. How has the game in your mind from when you got in to now, and now you're one of the vet, changed over these years?
I think the pitching's gotten even that much better since I made my debut. There's so much more information readily available to everybody. And teams know how to attack you. They know how to attack your weaknesses. So you have to stay disciplined and make adjustments. And, these pitchers, they don't let up. They're throwing a lot more fastballs high in the zone, which are hard to catch up to. So you want to try to lay off that, and their breaking stuff is really nasty too. So I'd say overall, I've noticed the pitching has gotten better, and I'd say like the league has gotten faster too. If you hit a ball to the outfield, you better crush it and smoke it, because these guys track everything down too. So the league's gotten really athletic, and the pitching gotten really good.
That's a good thing to bring up, because you have 6 home runs, and I know you'd like a lot more. So saying the pitching is a lot better is a good way to handle that, right?
It's been, the power's been kind of hard to come by this year. The ball's a little interesting. I'll say that. Ball's been a little interesting, and then they moved our wall back at Camden, so that hasn't been a help either. So,
Trey, I always wonder, listen, I talked about this for a couple of decades doing a show, when there are home runs hit or not home runs hit in the ball. I mean, can you explain that a little bit when you make that reference about the ball? Because you know what the league says, and then players say different things of just how you can tell a difference.
Yeah, I can't speak on the ball itself, but they've put humidors in every single park now. So the humidor, the balls have to be stored in there for 2 weeks before they're used, and it lessens the drag on them when you hit a fly ball. So I've noticed on balls that I hit to the opposite field, they're fading and dying rather than going over the fence. Because in the past, my power has mostly been to the opposite field, actually.
Right.
And this year, all my home runs are pooled. So what I've noticed is, the humidors, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's the way the ball spins when you hit it the opposite way, but it just kind of dies and hangs up in the air a little bit long. So it's been a little strange, but at the same time, you got to make adjustments. It is what it is. You can't sit and complain about it all year, and you have to make adjustments, and whether that's trying to hit more line drives, I don't know what it is, but there's things you can do to combat it.
Can I just ask, who the hell thinks of a humidor? All of a sudden to say we got to throw baseballs in something where I'm going to smoke a cigar out of.
Yeah, I guess exactly. Yeah, it's a cigar tool. But yeah, I guess the home run numbers were getting too crazy, and there's been a big thing lately about the 3 true outcomes, which is home runs, strikeouts, and walks. A lot of people thought that there was too much of those, and they wanted to combat that by having more balls in play. I can't say I agree with it, but that's what it is.
If you were a pitcher, you would agree, right?
If
it all depends on the position, right?
Yeah, if I was a pitcher, I'd love all of it.
Listen, I have always said, there's another debate that always happens on shows. The hardest thing to do in a sport, to this day, and I still maintain it, the hardest thing to do is hit a Major League Baseball. Mm-hmm. I mean, I just, to me, I mean, and everybody, a lot of people disagree, and I'd be like, go stand in the batter's box. And it just have to be 100-mile-an-hour fastball. Let him throw that hook on you. It looks like it's going to hit you in the head. and then drop down. I mean, and I know you're in the sport and you obviously know other sports, but do you agree with that? Is that the hardest thing to do in a sport?
Definitely. And one of the hardest parts about baseball is you can be locked in for a long time. For the most part this year, I felt really good at the plate, felt in control. And we've been on a road trip so far in Kansas City and then yesterday in Toronto. And kind of at the snap of a finger, you can go from feeling really good to a little lost at the plate. And I kind of been going through that the last few days. No matter how good you're going or how good you feel, you can definitely go through a quick period where you struggle a little bit. Like everybody's going to slump at some point. The best player in the world, Mike Trout, just went through it himself. So, it's kind of about grinding through it and staying the course. It's so important because it can be tough. And like you said, these pitchers are absurdly good and hitting a baseball is hard enough as it is.
Yeah, going in a slump, forgetting the physical side, the mental side of that has to be just debilitating, knowing how good of a player you can be. Last one, I know you're from Winter Haven. Is there a Tampa Bay Lightning rooting in this Stanley Cup?
I wish I could. I'm not a bandwagon guy. I wish I could hop on the bandwagon and say that I'm a huge fan, but I'm not too much. I follow hockey. I don't know if I'd say I have like a diehard team I'm a fan of. I'm actually a big Washington Commanders fan. In football, my mom's from the DC area. So that's my team. My other team in professional sports is the Commanders. So I want the Stanley Cup to go 7 games. I'll say that. I think it's going to be a great series.
Yeah, listen, there's nothing better than overtime hockey in the playoffs.
That McKinnon dude is really legit on the. He's fun to watch.
Yeah.
I have one more baseball question for you, not about your team, but there was a report. You mentioned Mike Trout, and the Angels have been struggling this season, and they fired Joe Maddon recently, and before they fired him, apparently he shaved his head and got a mohawk to kind of like invigorate the team. What does this make you sad? Is this funny? Like, what would you do as a player if this happened to your manager?
No, that makes me extremely sad. I love the move from Joe Maddon doing that. To just try to it's a way to keep things loose. So like in baseball, we do weird things like that. It sounds silly for a grown man to shave a mohawk into his head, but that's the things we do whenever we're slumping. Last year we had a 19-game losing streak, and I kept shaving my whole face every day except for my mustache until we won a game. I made everybody look at the mustache every day because it was disgusting looking, but it's just kind of something that we do to keep things light in baseball. So I was really sad when I heard this story, and it made me feel even worse for him. That was tough.
One of the things, you guys play the most regular season games. So I just assume, and it's wrong to assume, do you have like superstitions are wrong, habits that you absolutely positively have to do every single game?
Yeah, I think it's really important to have a routine. I try to keep my daily routine as close as possible, like every single day. I try to do the same thing and repeat. I think that's pretty important for baseball, and it can get a little tedious at times and a little mundane, but at the same time, I think it's really important to have a routine and stick to it. Because like you said, we played 162 games in 185 days, I think it is. So it's really important to have that routine and stay locked in every day.
So my routine a lot of times is around food. So give me the best road post-game food buffet.
The Yankees have the best, most incredible post-game spread every single night there. They bring the heat every night. It is incredible. It's like playing in New York is fun as it is. It's a great atmosphere, but when you have that post-game spread waiting for you, it just gets you excited towards the end of the game. They do such a good job there.
God, that's so impressive. We never got anything like that. That is so cool.
Oh, it's so good.
Oh, wow. All right. I'm jealous. That's the way I'm ending. I'm jealous. Well, Trey, we really appreciate the time. We really do. And best of luck the rest of the year. We know the home run numbers will get up, or get those damn balls out of the humidors to help you out at some point.
We need some more humidity on those balls.
Yeah, we definitely do. I don't know if you can tell my hands like massive right now. I swung at a pitch at my face last night, kind of like protecting myself. So I'm going to be out a few days, I think.
Oh,
wow.
man, that was really swollen. Okay.
It's crazy. So
see, there's something about that. Taking a freaking baseball shot somewhere. Obviously, let's take away the head, because we know how dangerous that could be. What's the worst? I keep saying we're done. I keep asking questions. What's the worst place outside of the head? We'll forget that, to get hit.
Honestly, the shin. Like if you foul a ball off your shin, it is bad. Anywhere on the leg, the calf too, because the calf will tighten up and you can't walk the next day. But at the same time, it's a muscular injury. So I'm like a hockey player, football player would play today. So I got to go try to trot out there.
Right.
I can't because my calf is bruised.
The hand seems pretty bad in terms of ability to do your job the next day too, right?
Yeah. I keep just wearing it. I've been a magnet this year, but it sucks.
All right. Well, whenever you get back on the field, best of luck. And
all right. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
All right. See y'all.
All right, Jess. So good to talk to Trey. What this guy has been through, as he said, having a career year and then being diagnosed with cancer and having to deal with that and coming out, winning that battle as well. And now back on the field, albeit in Baltimore. I know it's tough there to play from a team standpoint. Just a heck of a guy, and boy, a proud alum at this point as Notre Dame baseball moves on to the College World Series.
And still taking the time out of his busy schedule to come on Golic and Smetty to talk some college baseball. Mike, I'm excited for the next round of the baseball series. I don't understand how it works. Apparently there's a round robin tournament. None of it makes sense to me. I understand. I don't even actually really understand why they're called regionals and then super regionals. Like, I feel like you could just add one after that and call it like a mega regional, because the titles don't really matter. They don't make any sense to me.
The only thing I've really dove into with college baseball, and now it's a lot more because Notre Dame is in it, is the fact when it ends, these guys probably have a couple of weeks and then they got to go back to school.
Right,
it's
exactly.
Like they get no summer break at all. I mean, it's like when they were growing up and they play on the all-star teams and you play all summer long. Except here they're playing for a College World Series. They're like right back at school. It's unbelievable. But I'm with you. I mean, I know we play Texas, and then we go from there. I mean, it was easy before. You have a best of three, with Tennessee. Take care of that and you move on. And now we'll see. But boy, the excitement that has to be with that team right now. And again, as we mentioned with Trey, with Link Jarrett, the coach. I mean, to stay there. He's been there a couple of years, helped turning that program around. We know he's a Florida State guy, and we know Florida State, looking for a coach. So let's hope he stays with the Irish.
Yeah, and hopefully someone will end up tweeting at me how the rest of the World Series works in plain English, so I won't have to actually do any research on my own.
Here's what will happen, Jess. The guy that's about to have a 6 in front of his age will figure it out for you, and I'll explain it to you.
I would love for you to mansplain it to me. I welcome it.